to share. So I want to talk about Tamala Horsford. Tamala Horsford. I have been following this case since it happened, and I've spoken about it, and I had planned on doing something in depth. And I have a lot of footage and research on this case. And it is an unsolved case out of Cummings, Georgia. Cummings is where Lake Lanier is. Cummings is where that once black-owned town used to be, that was treated like a rosewood. A town that was black-owned, black-ran, and it now has the town underwater. There is even a notorious racetrack underwater. It is one of the hundreds and hundreds of towns that used to be black-owned and black-lived that were drowned out by the government, by the hands of the military, so that they could create dams and other things. And of course, keep black people from being in their own towns by their own selves, minding their own businesses, making their own money. Yeah, Cummings, Georgia. This is Tamala and her husband right here. This happened back in 2018. And I believe 20, I forget what year, but we're going to find out in a second for sure, because I don't want to say the wrong year. The husband has been trying to get answers to this case, and he hooked up with Tamika Mallory. Whatever year that was that she was making a lot of noise around here, her name was running around on social media. Now, according to what I have found, the case was reopened, but thanks to Tamika Mallory, who the husband was pleading to, they did a full live video. Okay, greetings, please hit the like button. The husband and Tamika Mallory talking about this case, where she agreed to look into it. And the case was subsequently closed again with no more answers. Tamala and her husband are from the islands, they're Caribbean. Thank you. And they moved here, Georgia. They moved to the Cummings, Georgia area. And they have children, and their children were on a football team. So there were football moms that would get together and have, football mom events. And yes, they were all white. Tamala was the only black woman who was invited to or heard about and asked to come to a mom sleepover that they were having. Tamala never made it home from that sleepover. This was later turned into a Tubi movie called Girls Night. I have not watched it yet because we know how it ends, right? With no answers. And that's very disappointing because there were a lot of moms there that night. There was supposed to be no men at all. But it so happened that some of the wives, husbands, came there that night. Tamala came bearing gifts. One of them was a bottle of tequila, which you'll hear about. Tamala had on pajamas, a one-piece pajama, and some socks when she was found. The house looks like one of the plantation houses, except for it was just a tad bit smaller. And there is proof that their alarm system showed the door was open and closed several times in the middle of the night. The last time that it was registered as being opened, it was never closed until one of the partygoers found Tamala face down on the ground outside. She was lying in an odd position. They tried to say she fell down the stairs or she fell off the balcony. She was drunk. Her injuries, thank you for the gift. Thank you so much. Her injuries are not consistent with it being a drunken fall, even off the balcony. I believe she had a fractured or a broken wrist. She had what believed to be defense wounds. She had a lot of wounds and scars on her. Nobody tried to do CPR for Tamala when she was found. Not even the officers when they arrived. When the EMS were supposed to be en route, they were turned away by the officers on the scene. One of the wives' husbands that was there was either an ex-cop at the time or he was a cop. The officer pronounced her deceased on the scene. It was either the officer or one of the women's husbands who was an officer. Only a doctor can pronounce someone as deceased. Okay. It was rated as no foul play suspected. She was drunk. She maybe fell. Maybe she tried to go down the steps. She missed the railing and slip, boom, boom, bam. So there was really no investigation done. When the case was reopened, they decided, because of the noise, let's do an investigation. Two years later, let's check their phones, because it's part of an investigation, right? Well, at least 2 people had already gotten new phones. People were interviewed, but this again was 2 years later, and I have all of that interview footage. And at some time or another, I'm going to get that together and I'm going to play it, because, you know, we need to continue to talk about Tamala. Now, I heard today, I saw a video on TikTok where a guy claims that he believes her own husband did this. Now, this page appears to be a black guy's page. He says he believes that Tamala's husband did this to her. Then there's other people commenting saying that they never saw the husband really say anything about this. Now, let's talk about that. Let's be clear. First of all, the husband was not there. It was supposed to be a mom-only sleepover with no man. Tamala's husband was not there. He was home with the children. He set it up. Why? Because he encouraged his wife to go ahead and go to the sleepover. Now, Tamala, again, was the only black woman at that sleepover. We all know enough to know better. Now, I come from a military town. Lots of whites, right? And, you know, others, but... And I used to hang out. I grew up with white people, child. Okay. So, military-wise, most of them, you know, were who I hung out with, did business with, you know. But we didn't do no sleepovers. We had, a lot of us our own little lingerie business or whatnot called Slumber Parties. I don't know if y'all remember that. Kind of like an MLM type thing. But we didn't never have no slumber parties. And most of our events were, we would get the husbands involved. We would get like lots of other women involved. There was no get together, drink, and sleepover type thing. And if that ever happened, as cool as I was with them, and still not even knowing the things that I know now, vast difference in knowledge, I still would not have slept as the only black girl with all those whites. I think Tamala wanted to make buddies and fit in, and she went there. And she didn't even really know these women. I don't know what it was about Tamala. Maybe we can hear from people who have some kind of thoughts and speculations, who know her, maybe know them, know the town more, know the situation. 9 times out of 10, it was because she was black, she was pretty, articulate, intelligent. Her and her husband moved into that town because whites have came and taken over the town a long time ago, and they drowned out all of the black people that they could not kill or didn't kill, could not force out. They took over the town and drowned them out, and their town is under water. And that is the Lake Lanier, where people go in droves, but things happen, and they say it's spirits. Again, this is Tamala and her husband. Beautiful couple, beautiful woman. I'm gonna show you a couple of other pictures, and then we gonna listen to some stuff, okay? Again, this is Tamala, Horsford. Let's never forget this beautiful woman. Sweet soul. I'm sure Tamala, maybe, hopefully, knows what happened to her. And this is her the night of the sleepover. Yeah. This is the infamous sleepover picture. Maybe you guys have seen it. I'm not sure. But this is her. And just some of the ladies, because the picture's kind of cut. But they were on the couch. And people talk about how these ladies are hugged up. The other ladies off that you can't see, they're hugged up. Tamala's leaning into this lady, but she is leaning away from Tamala. Very much so, leaning away. It is one thing to go hang out with people you don't know, especially if you are the only beautiful brown girl and they are white. But it's another thing to get intoxicated, baby, and you lose the ability to read the room. Okay. Yeah. Let me see any more pictures. Oh, a lot went on in this case where the whole town should have been investigated. This is a picture of some of the ladies that were there. They have on masks because this was in 2020. This is December the 7th of 2020 on Facebook. Janine, one of the ladies, this is her post. And it says, the best masks ever. If you know, you know. That's what this says. The best masks ever. If you know, you know. And you know, we all know that this was when COVID was hitting, right? Then another mom who was there commented, ha, 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 ha. That's the best. She has 1, 2, 3 exclamation marks after ha, ha, ha. And 2 exclamation marks after the best. She goes on to say, I just laughed so hard when I saw this. Two more exclamation marks after that. Now, this was posted again December the 7th of 2020. Tamala's murder happened in November of 2018, 2 years later. So she's posting a fond memory of them wearing what they call the best masks ever. What would make these the best masks ever? Because they're from Dunkin' Donuts? Yeah. Because while the case was supposedly being investigated, because remember, the case was never investigated at first, and then a couple of years later, which would be 2020, it was opened up for investigation by the GBI, Georgia Bureau of Investigations. During this time where it was being investigated, a bunch of coffee and Dunkin' Donuts was taken to the investigators with gift cards to say thank you for your hard work. Someone's passing where you guys were all involved and you were there. Okay, at minimum you were there. It's being investigated, and you take the investigators' gift cards and coffee and donuts. Yes, they accepted them. Okay, this post is longer, it has more comments, but we'll get into that some other time. Just want to point that out. You know how when stuff like this happens, these wives tend to get away with a lot. Now, this is Tamala with her husband and their children. They no longer have her. She just went to a sleepover. She just went to a sleepover with some ladies. Okay, I can show you more pictures, but this is another wedding picture with her and her husband. Another one. And did the husband, let's just do that first before we get into the full story of what happened. Did the husband advocate, a scream, a holler for Tamala? Yes. For anyone who is saying that he didn't. Yes. Okay. Now, let me just show you a little excerpt of the husband with what did I say her name was?
Like somebody drug her there and put her there.
Like they
moved her body, possibly. Okay.
No, I'm not going to say they moved her body. I'm going to say they put her body there. I will say that. I don't think she died there. I don't think she died there at all. Not with the marks that she had on her.
Okay, so now I learned that you and also I'm told that in the reports they claim they didn't know she was out there. So she had been, they don't know what time she fell. No one seems to know that. Is that correct?
Because you go to a party with a bunch of people and everybody goes to sleep at the same exact time. When does that ever happen?
How was she found? Someone is asking who found her.
Now, this is part 14 of this. Now, I just wanted to say something about the everybody going to sleep at the same time. Now, this is just what was told to her because she was communicating with her husband throughout the night while she was there. I mean, you don't know them like that. You're the only black girl. You're going to feel a little like the odd one, and, you know, especially if they're bias towards each other versus you. And she was uncomfortable. She even wanted to leave. They talked her into staying because she had been drinking. Even the husband was supportive of her staying. Now, people get on the husband about that. I agree that, especially given the situation. But if a child is uncomfortable, don't try to, oh, we want to encourage them to pull through, and it could be awkward. You could feel shy or weird. No, don't encourage them to stay. Go get them immediately. Okay? Because you don't truly know what that uncomfortableness is really about. It could be something they've seen, heard, sense, or they're sensing. So you don't know. They could really be in danger. Whatever situation that will be comfortable for them is the right situation. All right? You don't need uncomfortable situations with people, especially in these days. Now, I'm sure he wanted her to, just not to make it more awkward and, just pull through, get along, whatever. But that, I'm sure he feels like, I wish I would have supported her, went and got her, sent the Uber, whatever. They talked her into staying. You too drunk. Okay, but somebody could have picked her up, cab, Uber, whatever. She could have got home. They told her that we all have sleeping buddies. I have no idea if that's something that these women do. Probably, because who knows what they was doing. But it also could have just been a thing of theirs. There's always cliques within cliques. People team up. People have besties. And maybe they group together, sleep together. It was a lot of women there. Ain't but so many beds in the people's house. So maybe they buddied up to sleep together. Now, she didn't have a sleeping buddy. Of course she didn't. She's the only beautiful brown girl there. Them whites didn't want to sleep with her. Most people feel like this was pre-planned. I agree. I can't tell you the amount of hours and years of research I have done into this case. Not only do I believe it was pre-planned, her smurder, her unaliving, however YouTube wants us to say it, but the cover-up is obvious. Okay, it's obvious. So that is one of the many videos with him and Tamika Mallory. And at some point, I'm going to show all of them as soon as I get them lined up and in order. Okay. But that was part 14. Now let's get into the story.
That's the sound of an American oil company hard at work. Want to be a part of it? Listen up.
Hello, my name is Adam Ferrari, and I'm...
A death investigation is like a puzzle.
This can't be real.
2 law enforcement agencies investigated piece by piece the death of Tamala Horsford. Both concluded she got so drunk at a party she fell from a balcony after everyone else had gone to sleep.
Just drinking and we played cards against humanity.
But her family insists that narrative doesn't solve the puzzle.
You get all this information and you go, wait, nothing makes sense here.
Rob Fernandez, the attorney for Tamala's husband, says he's gone through the evidence, every interview, document, and scene photo. So has Tamala's father and friends like Michelle Graves.
Why not just let this go? I cannot let this go because I know that what they said did not happen to her.
So we went through it all as well to take you inside the investigation to understand why the family remains convinced police are still missing pieces to this puzzle.
I know this was a homicide. The problem is I can't pin it on anybody because I don't have a badge and I don't have a gun.
We also got access to something that is not in the GBI's report. For the first time, the family is making their independent autopsy public. In it, Dr. Adele Shaker says the dislocated wrist mentioned in the GBI's report is actually a compound fracture. And the fracture in her spine isn't a fracture at all. And to him, what is most important is what the GBI's medical examiner did not find.
There is no evidence of any significant injuries to the skull bones.
In Dr. Shaker's report, he says the lack of broken bones in Tamala's skull make him skeptical that she died falling from the second story of a building. Now, at first, deputies on the scene seemed to agree.
They showed us the mulch and the rocks in the mulch and showed where, oh, she tripped and fell over this little garden border.
From the homeowner to the detectives, there are statements pushing back against the idea Tamala.
How many different stories were given? Guesses, estimates, just pure guessing, with several different theories on what happened to this woman. That should never be allowed. If you are going to close a case and say this is what we surmise has happened officially, then you better pick one. And you need supporting evidence for that as well. You can't 1 minute say she was drunk in all scenarios, right? Which I don't know. I don't have any tests. But y'all don't do that. Don't do that. First of all, don't get drunk ever. But don't get drunk with people. Don't get drunk with people you barely know. Don't go stay the night at somebody's house with people you don't know, and don't go there and get drunk. You are way more vulnerable. And I don't care if you're nervous that you feel like you need to drink, then it's time to leave. Don't do that. You are not going to be that. Alcohol slows you down. You're going to miss every nook and cranny of every clue that you're supposed to be getting. And you're going to lose the ability to defend yourself. But they say she was drunk. They say she fell over the balcony. Then they say she fell down the stairs. Then they say she tripped over the little border. You know how you have maybe a little area around your yard, around your home, where you want to make a little flower bed, and you just take some wood and you create a border, not really a fence, but just a little border. They say she was out there by herself in the middle of the night, maybe 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, while everybody else is asleep. Doing what, first of all? But she was stumbling, and she's not used to the place, and she tripped over the border. Boom, she fell, and then she passed away from the fall. Or she slipped down the steps, and boom, she fell. Well, she didn't fall, and if she fell down the steps, she didn't pass away right where y'all found her. That's impossible. Okay, so she tripped over the balcony, and she landed like that. And what took her? What made her pass away? What was was she choked? Was it blunt force? What is it? It's just wild accusations.
Fell from the porch.
If you went to brace yourself with your left hand, there ain't nothing there to brace yourself with, and you spin, you know what I'm saying?
And even more unusual, how the homeowner and her boyfriend found Tamala's arms.
It's the weirdest thing. She was face down, but like her arms were down, like she just face planted is the best way I can describe it.
So her arms were like by her side?
Yeah, they were by her side, palms up.
It's a question we heard several times in the investigation, because when you look at the scene photos, Tamala's left arm is actually off to the side, bent, her fingers curled under.
Did you ever touch her arm?
No.
Okay. Did you see anybody touch her?
No.
Other than you?
No.
To this day, police can't explain the discrepancies, at least not in a way that makes sense to the family. They say despite the yellow crime scene tape, Tamala's death was never treated like a crime.
Maybe she fell off the balcony, but she's stiff.
Okay, is she breathing?
I don't know if she's face down.
Forsyth County deputies called everyone that attended the sleepover back to the house for questioning. But it wasn't until the GBI got involved 2 years later that police searched for evidence on their phones. By that time, 2 people had new ones, and text messages and pictures from other phones were gone.
But like an ambulance didn't come. We just saw her come out in a...
Phone records? It's only 2 years later. Phone records? No. No? Okay. Okay. So she fell some kind of way. Maybe she fell off the balcony, one said. You saw the little flower border. Maybe she tripped over that. Maybe she fell down the stairs. What was the blunt force when she fell that took her? You see how they found her, or they say they found, because they cool with the popos, okay, that showed up. Even one of them was a co-worker now. So what was the blunt force? She fell, she face planted. Okay, so bruises on the side of her face. And the force was on the head. I mean, where was it? No, just a bunch of maybe this, maybe that.
No one tried to roll Tamala over to render CPR. Not even police, who called off EMS.
There was no effort whatsoever done
I'd
to
have
try to
sued
save
them
this woman's life.
because of that.
The only one we know who touched Tamala's body was the homeowner's boyfriend. He declared her dead after touching her leg.
I have one deputy that's about to pull into your subdivision.
Then the destination is on your right.
Tamala's family believes race also played a role. The only black woman at the party in a county with few black people. The lead investigator on the case, Michael Christian, is accused of calling Tamala the porch lady and making derogatory racial remarks during the investigation.
I mean, that's horrific. In the racist, bigoted, sarcastic, funny way of this sick son of...
On top of that, some of the responding officers knew the people at the party. The man on that 911 call was a former probation officer who, at the time, worked in the county's court system. And another woman worked with an officer's wife.
I'm sure you're good because her boss is my wife. So, well, then you're more than good.
In the recordings, we heard police tell the family that when the investigation is complete, they can access all of the records and the pieces will finally fit. But they don't.
Legally, this case is just beginning as far as I'm concerned.
I haven't been able to grieve her because I've been trying to fight for her justice for 3 years.
I have to know the truth.
Okay, check this out. You can't determine someone deceased by touching their leg, by looking at them, or by anything, because you are not qualified to do so. Only a medical professional who is authorized can declare someone deceased. That's why most of the time people actually do die on a scene, but they're not declared so officially until they reach the hospital, because the doctor will examine their body. There is an examination that should be done to determine, okay, this body has no more life and no more possibility of life. That is supposed to be how you determine someone deceased. It is not allowed legally for a random person to touch someone's leg and say, this person is deceased. Even if you call 911 and say they say work on them. And a doctor will make that determination. Let the professionals get there. They're going to work on you all the way to the hospital. And then when they get to the hospital, the doctor might say, yeah, they passed away. But you yourself cannot do that, especially by just touching their leg. What if they just knocked out? What if they in a coma? What if, anything. But you don't get to determine that their life is over. You don't know that. Is you God? So the officer went along with that. And he said he didn't touch her. He just went along with that. Now, it was found that someone moved her body, not only just allegedly from the crime scene to there and placed her in that position, but they moved her, I believe, even after the officer got there, to reposition her, because they decided this position doesn't look like what we would want to say, which is she fell. Okay. So let's move right along.
The General gives you a break to keep you covered.
Yeah, whether it's on your car insurance or taking a break from being the auto tune guy.
Every town has a dark side.
It was back in November when 40-year-old Tamala Horsford was found dead in the backyard of a home in Cumming, and now...
It was a birthday party down in Georgia. A gathering of football moms and their husbands looking to cut loose for a night away from the kids. And cut loose they did. Over by morning, one of them was dead.
Okay, so I'm playing this because he has history in here that, I would like for you guys to hear. But he just embellishing this story. That is another reason why I didn't want to watch the Tubi movie, but I probably will watch it. I mean, I got 10 whole hours before I can go anywhere. I mean, I could leave, but I'm talking about in this truck. The wife and the husband's having a good time. No, it was supposed to be a wife's only sleepover at one of the wives' houses, and not something at a bar or husbands involved. Husbands and boyfriends came, which we believe that was planned, but there was not supposed to be any men there. I do believe, and I think he also said this, that Tamala's husband would have felt differently about her going if he knew other husbands was gonna be there. It's supposed to be a women only, a mom only sleepover, so.
Tamala Horsford was found lying face down in the yard. As to how it happened exactly, though, that's the million-dollar question. Now, officials are sticking to the story that it was just an accident. Too much to drink, a fall from a balcony, so case closed. But the thing about it is, nothing in this story really adds up.
Let's be clear. Remember I said this is a plantation-style house. It is a plantation-style house. If you're from the South, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But you probably seen movies, so you still know what I'm talking about. And you know why they had these type of porches. And most of them were wraparound porches. But they had these type of porches, double-decker porches, up top floor, bottom floor. They would usher the slaves up here and show them off and auction them off.
The injuries to her body don't match the story. Evidence was mishandled. The witness accounts contradict one another. And the lead investigator? Well, he shared crime scene photos with his mistresses and mockingly called the dead woman porch lady. On top of all that, Tamala just so happened to be the only black person at the party. A party that took place in a county with one of America's most notorious histories of racial violence.
And it's a sundown town.
Hi everyone, it's Andrew. Thanks so much for tuning in to another episode of Everytown, where today we have a case that at the very least is super sketchy in how it was handled, and at most is a straight up murder that's been covered up. So let's head on down to Forsyth, Georgia together and look into the mysterious death of Tamala Horsford. And Tamala was 40 years old back in 2018 when the tragedy occurred. And she was originally a native of St. Vincent and Grenadines Island in the Caribbean. When she was 11, her family moved on over to New York City in the Bronx. When she got older and was living down in Florida for some warmer weather, she met her future husband, Leander, and she became the stepmother to his daughter, and the couple would go on to have 5 boys together, making for a large and loving family.
With a beaming smile and a sparkle in her eye, Tamala Horsford was a ray of light, according to her family, a mother of 5 boys who put everyone else first.
Super mom. She made sure she could provide for them.
And Tamala was a happy-go-lucky person, and her sunny disposition made it easy for her to make friends no matter where she lived. The Horsfords moved to Georgia, and there Tamala was active in her kids' lives, attending school functions and every sporting event under the sun. But she loved every minute of it. And sure, it was stressful at times, but it was all worth it to keep her family happy. That's the life she wanted, and that's the life she got. So it was here in her newfound home of Forsyth, Georgia, that she attended many of her son's football games and became acquainted with some of the other moms. She became friends with a woman named Jean Myers, and the two clicked together pretty quickly. You could always find them on the sideline together chatting and laughing while their boys ran up and down the field. So mid-football season in November, when it came time for Jean's birthday, she invited Tamala over for a little gathering. Nothing crazy, just a few friends. Tamala was psyched for the party, a rare night out on her own. And she had planned to sleep over there knowing they'd be up drinking, and so that's what went down. A fairly normal night, I think, most would consider. Except that Tamala wasn't just any guest. She just so happened to be the only black person at this gathering. In Forsyth County, no less, a place with a racial history that's so divided, deep, and ugly, it's actually hard to believe. And that right there is the crux of this investigation. And had this occurred anywhere else in America, it might not have received this type of attention, but it didn't. It happened here, in a place with a dark history that reaches well into the modern day.
That's most of America.
I need to paint you a picture, because if you're not familiar with Forsyth County, then you need to be, because it will definitely change the way you look at the night's events in Tamala's story.
Sparkle cleans
Of course, we
everyday
got a
messes,
commercial.
and it won't clean out your piggy bank.
A non-skippable commercial. Okay.
Change the way you look at the night's events in Tamala's story. You ever look in the mirror and think, when did my skin start looking this tired? Well, that was me until I started using makeup that actually showed every time. Poe was found attacked and killed, left in the woods about a mile from her house. She'd been beaten, slashed with a knife several times, and had her throat cut. And also, she was white. And this scientifically proven gentle care it deserves with one skin. So going back to 1912 in this county, an 18-year-old girl named May Crow was found attacked and killed, left in the woods about a mile from her house. She'd been beaten, slashed with a knife several times, and had her throat cut. And also, she was white. And the sheriff then supposedly found something belonging to a black kid in town in her pocket. And this kid was 16 years old. They pulled him from his house and beat some sort of confession out of him where he implicated another 4 guys who were also black. I say some sort because really the evidence doesn't matter in this case to the sheriff. It appears like May's murder was used more as an excuse than anything else to make an example.
Very common thing that they would do back then. They would always use a white woman, even if they had to sacrifice one, as they clearly did here. You know, sometimes it would be an actual crime that was done by one of them. Just not unplanned is what I'm saying. And other times, it would be just a flat out lie. And of course, the white would say, it was a nigga. Right? And they would use that as an excuse to set up the black man, right? So they can go around town like the crazy fools that they were and go up in anybody's house who had a black man. And they would just damage their property, burn their house, probably eliminate everybody there, but they would surely drag out the black boys and the black men and have fun with them, but never leaving them alive. And when they wanted to take over towns, it would always start like this. Now, when they had a clear mission to take this town and a clear mission to make a dam of water, and they drowned this town, they knew that they wanted to do that, right? So to start off some BS, to run all the blacks out of the town and eliminate a lot of them and take the town. They set it off like this. Same thing happened what? In Black Wall Street in Durham. Same thing happened in Rosewood. Now, if you do your research, this happened in hundreds of towns that were black owned. It was destroyed by fire, drownings, and all sorts of things. This has happened so much in history. It's not ever funny. So whatever happened to May Crow, it is highly unlikely that black folks did it. You know why? Because the consequences were just too much. Blacks would likely commit a crime against each other before they go touch any of their whites. The consequences, that means all blacks gotta pay. They were free and able to do that back then. You can lie on a black. You don't have to prove a doggone thing. Because you say they did it, that's all is needed. And you can use that excuse to eliminate any black person that you want to. Take any of their things and destroy everything. And they didn't just assassinate you. They did a lot of things. They like to have fun with your bodies. They like to sever your parts. They like to hang you. They like to gut you like a deer. They like to cook you over a fire. They took plenty of pictures and paraphernalia, and they would put you on the front page. They would put you on postcards. They would even consume your bodies. That was a very, 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 very popular thing to do, is eat blacks. Cannibalism is perfectly legal instead of the state of Idaho. I don't know who hurt this girl. Or if it happened. Now,
where are they going?
It would not let me stop this.
From early
Allegedly,
to
that
late night
did
edits, from the arena
happen.
floor to the airport gate, I need one device that keeps up with all sides of me.
Okay, you too. Allegedly, that did happen to such said girl, but I know for sure it wasn't a black. It wasn't a group of blacks, unless they had a death wish. And a death wish for all their loved ones and all black people in the town, because never ever would they just grab who they think did it. That was allegedly done in the case of Emmett Till. I mean, that was a little bit more modern in time. So they were trying to enforce some laws of, well, you need to have a little proof, or, you know, you can't just be going all willy-nilly, bring too much heat to the town. But as you saw, they went and took him out their house because the white lady said he whistled at her. And they did what they did to him. And y'all know what they did to Emmett Till.
And down south back then, unfortunately, this wasn't uncommon. When a crime occurred against a white person, it was round up the black people as fast as possible and just sort it out later. And before anything could be looked into properly, an angry white mob stormed that jail where the men were being held. They dragged out a prisoner named Rob Edwards. And outside, they beat him with stones and crowbars and strung him up on a pole. They then took turns shooting him.
Cowards.
According to historical accounts, this mob wasn't even hiding their identities, which is a statement that says loud and clear that we don't care, and around here we can do this. They were essentially proud of what they were doing. The sheriff himself actually left the jailhouse that day, leaving just one officer on duty, almost like he knew what was about to happen and either didn't want to try and stop it, or he wanted it to go down. After that, they weren't done with just one murder. In the months that followed, white night riders, as they were called, went door to door forcing every black family in the county to leave. And they'd post notes giving people 24 hours to get out and shoot into the homes of anyone who didn't move fast enough.
Imagine that.
I mean, just imagine that, having to abandon your home, your land, and your community, everything you built, all overnight. And black families had no choice. They packed up and were run out of town. Most never received fair compensation for the property they were forced to abandon. And their land got snatched up.
This is a lot of our people's history. A lot of our people's history. I am from Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina. My family. Now, my father, he's from Louisiana. But on my mother's side, all from here. Indians. My mother's mother and my mother's father. And when they got ran out, they gave some of them a choice to stay and keep their property. But you had to declare yourself a Negro. And tweak your last name so it wouldn't sound too native to this land. Facts with proof. They ran these people out this town, told them they had 24 hours.
Up for pennies on the dollar by the same white residents who'd driven them out. So by 1920 then, not a single black resident remained
Let me say
in
this
Forsyth
too,
County.
because there's a separate conversation I want to have about Umar Fat Scammer Johnson. This is me trying not to use any cuss words. How am I doing? I'm doing good. Okay. There was an interview with him recently, and you know, y'all just keep listening to that scammer. It's crazy. It's crazy. But you know, he's talking about wanting to take over this reparations movement and head it up, and he claims we's from Africa. No cuss words. Okay. Forget you, boy. You say you talk for yourself. Okay, you don't talk for everybody. Cause it's far back. You know, we got Georgia archives here that covers 5 states and goes back to the early 1800s. My family is from here, nigga. Okay. You don't get to tell people where they're from. And then he also says that the reparations should come from the British. Okay, they should come from a lot of places and a lot of people then, because we don't excuse the whites here for the shit that they done. Umar is all knowledgeable according to y'all. But when he say white Americans, white people, whatever, Europeans or whatever, don't owe us reparations, the British do. Okay. They did nothing? Oh, because they took your people from Africa and brought them here? Well, what about us that was already here? What about the whites that ran us off our lands? That's happened in hundreds and hundreds of cities and towns all over America. They don't owe us. Stripping our identity. Not just y'all Africans that came from Africa and were put here and put there and put there. Umar wants you to say you from Africa and not America. I don't know where you from. That ain't my business. I know where I'm from. Nigga. Up yours. Okay?
They had been systematically and brutally removed, and for decades after that, it stayed a sundown county, which was a place where black people were warned not to be caught after dark. Eventually, even the physical evidence of their existence ever being in Forsyth in the first place started to disappear. Everything except for one forgotten graveyard outside the old Stony Point Baptist Church, where gravestones cracked and leaned with age, all showing death dates before 1912. And the families of those buried there couldn't even safely visit their loved ones if they wanted to. And so that's how it stayed for a very long time. Even after Jim Crow laws were abolished, Forsyth continued to stay segregated. There was this pocket that just refused to change with time, and it was just an unspoken way of life. Jump ahead to 1987, when civil rights marchers tried to demonstrate peacefully in the county, but they were met by thousands of counter-protesters with Confederate flags screaming racial slurs. Nearly 20,000 marchers came from all over, from Boston, San Francisco, and Atlanta, only to face a violent, hate-filled mob. It got so bad the National Guard had to step in. Over 2,300 riot-equipped guards and police officers were needed just to protect the marchers.
Sell what your kids don't need and earn some extra money back. Quick snap.
I'm assuming your comment is supposed to be legit, like you serious? So I'ma say, what? I don't even understand that as a full, like a statement, a comprehensible statement. You say, I think overall the land, nature's accords all work together, and also by way of energy sources, so I tend not to focus too heavily on such matters. Well, you know what? Get your ass on. Cuss word. Get on. Get. Because what matters? Any matters I'm talking about? Bye. Go. Not focus on it. Somewhere else. And I wanted to say somewhere else. You know what I'm saying? Back to what we was talking about. Oh, yeah. Tamala. Horsford. Tamala.
Winfrey came to film a special episode of her show there around that time.
Oprah.
One local resident even tried explaining to her that there were good blacks who didn't want to live there anyway. And then there were the ones he called a racial slur, saying they're the ones that just want to cause trouble. Even the local ministers held an emergency meeting after the march. Their solution, though, was to do nothing, essentially, and just pray and give the place time to, quote-unquote, heal. When Oprah finished taping, she herself didn't even stay in Forsyth after dark.
Of course not. It's sundown.
Even in 1990, just 14 black people lived in the entire county. Things improved some by the time Tamala and her family moved there, but she was still part of a tiny minority in a place where racial hate ran deep. Which is why, when her body turned up that November morning, this ugly history cast a long shadow on her case. It made many wonder, was it really just an accident?
Of course not. Of course not. You say your mom was from Marksville, Louisiana? Wow. I'm always interested in the name of the town and the history of that, because, you know, they don't just come from nowhere. St. Mary's Parish is where my father was born. St. Mary's Parish, Louisiana. You know that they have a lot of rich history, just like all of them. All of them. Now, it looks like it's going to be sunny. I can get out there and get some good walking in a little while. Glad I'm not in Alabama no more. It was so cold, 30s and 20s and snowing and tornadoes. And oh, my. Okay, so. And thank you for the donation.
So let's go back now to November 3rd of 2018, on the night it all went down. And Tamala shows up at Jean's house around 10 p.m.
Now, for him, I don't know if I want to play his version because I'm not gonna say his is full of all facts because of the tweaks that he's put in that I clearly can hear. I just wanted him to go over some of the history because the county is all in Cummins, and if you know about Cummins, that's where Lake Lanier is. That's where the town, I forgot the name of it because they renamed it, but the town that where they drowned them out to build the lake, and all these other towns. If you know anything about Georgia, one thing they have a lot of counties, cities, and towns. Money. It's all a money thing. So this is right there. I actually, for about 3 years, worked going up there. That's the landfill. That's where the landfill is at in Commons. And I would work up there, and that's what started me. Because usually, I like to travel, and I like to learn the history of the places and how did this get here, how did that get here. And I noticed that Cumming was the town that we went to to take the trash, very like country and not a lot of population. But as I was going there over the years, I saw that they were building and making putting businesses and houses and stuff, and they's all white. And I say, I know that this didn't originally belong to them. Found out a lot about that town. I did videos about it. They have it's called Coal Mountain. That's where the landfill is. And I said, was there coal in the mountains? I wanted to know that. Back in North Carolina, where I'm from, we would go down and dig our own crystals. I have a very huge crystal collection, and you get to go and dig your own crystals. And of course, there's coal in different places. So I say, was there coal in the mountains? Oh, it was named after a family called Coles, who was one of the original, not founders. Well, I can say founder because that means you found it. Not that it was yours. It means you found it. That means I came, I saw Negroes was here, and I said, bye, this is mine now. Okay? So, yeah. And I would always feel some kind of way going up there. Just seeing how they just build it on and everything, knowing that they stole it. But that's the case for a lot of things. And then I found out about Lake Lanier, and then I was like, oh, because, that's why I turned down that trip to Lake Lanier when I didn't even know. We do different towns, different lakes, different, even with the hiking, the mountain biking, all that. And for some reason, I didn't go to Lake Lanier, but I didn't know the history of it until I started delivering there and doing research. And then I found out about all these other towns that they did this, and the government used the military to run people out and build these dams. And this has happened in hundreds of cities all over America. They owe us everything. All this shit is ours. That's what I'm saying. I don't even know what Umar is talking about, except for he works for the opposition. And nobody should be listening to him because he scammed y'all worse than any black person. He scammed y'all worse than Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson put together. Okay? My personal opinion, I've been living long enough to know about them. And they've done a lot of scamming. He scammed most of that more than, what's the dude that, the boxing, he had Mike Tyson and all he had the funny hair like that guy. I can't remember his name, but y'all know who I'm talking about. Umar has scammed the black people more than any black person, and he's still doing it. People still giving him money, and there is not even a premise of a school. There is no potential for there to be a school. He is not capable of running a school, never was qualified. And even if he did get to school, it would mean nothing. It would be like a make-believe place to go because it would never be accredited. That's how dumb y'all telling these folks you are. I don't know if they're paying him, because why should they when y'all paying him so much? But he's definitely working for them. Trying to say, oh, you from Africa and you gotta go sue the British and all that other shit. Well, I can't wait to do my video getting into that because I'm going to tell Uma a new one. Okay? I'm going to do my best. So I'm going to speed through his video, actually, because there's some other ones I want to go over. And I'm not sure the accuracy. I mean, I'll know it as I hear it. But I want to get to, like, more accurate videos.
Nothing crazy is planned, just some moms from the football league hanging out having some drinks. A few of them planned to sleep over so nobody had to drive home tipsy, and the night starts out normal enough. At first, the women hung out upstairs while the men watched LSU play Alabama downstairs. And after that was done, everyone got together to play Cards Against Humanity. Videos from the party posted to social media show everyone laughing and dancing while trying to focus on the card game. And being the only smoker in the group, Tamala kept stepping out onto the balcony for cigarette breaks. And this is important to know for later on. Now, Tamala had brought over tequila for the birthday girl.
Okay, now the tequila is important. So I don't know how accurate he's going to be. But let me say something about the cigarette breaks and the playing games and the husbands. In another video, when I do put together and show y'all the interview with the husband, because he did more than one interview, but he was on with Tamika Mallory, like I showed y'all a little bit earlier. And he talked about that. He said there were never supposed to be any men there, and some of the wives did admit that, and that they just showed up or whatever. And that the boyfriend came because he lived there, he didn't have to work that night, blah blah blah, some shit like that. They made some excuse, but it was expressed to her, and this is what she told her husband: there were gonna be no men there. So when the men came, you know, Tamala was letting her husband know there are men here. I don't know if they were videoing or they were just talking on the phone, but he did say he was talking to his wife. They found out the men were there, and that's when it started to get weird. I'm just gonna stop right there. Now, with the cigarette smoking, Tamala smoked, unfortunately. So they were trying to say maybe when that happened, she was going out to have a smoke, and by her being so intoxicated. The thing is, unless you were drugged, let's keep it real. How intoxicated did you need to be as an adult to not be able to find your way? Because most adults who live a practical life and who do fine by taking care of themselves and keeping their composure and being a decent person, not gonna get so intoxicated. No matter, I don't care if you're nervous, you with new friend, you bold just by going. So you ain't that nervous where you gonna drink that so much. You know your limits, right? And you know you want to be coherent to some degree and aware of your surroundings. So I don't think it forever. There's no way that Tamala was so intoxicated that she could not even step out, even if she stumbled a little bit, right? To have a smoke without ending her life because she's so drunk. But that's the excuse that they use as to why she would be, when everybody's asleep, going out in the middle of the night. Okay, and the tequila, before we get to that. Gotta listen to the husband, because I don't remember if it was her idea, his idea, or they both together said, yeah, sure, let's take this tequila because we're going to be drinking this on Mom's night. So I'm going to bring this tequila. When I drank, tequila was one of my favorites. I love tequila. So tequila's a popular, you know, it's a party thing. But I wouldn't have brought it to a party with people I don't know. I got to know you and know how you handle tequila to even drink tequila with you. Because, baby, don't drink no tequila around me and I don't know you. I'm getting away from you because tequila, if you ain't bad enough to handle it, tequila will bring out the craziness in you, and it will bring out the killer in you. Am I lying? Okay, but she decided to bring tequila. I just think that's a bad idea. Bring a bottle of wine, baby, or some brandy, smooth, you know, not tequila. Now, they said they didn't have none of the tequila. I think in a different story, somebody said they tried some of the tequila and the tequila was seen to be a bad batch. Now, how would you know that something may be wrong with the tequila if you didn't try it? So someone had to try it at least, right? Because other than that, what did you do? Look at it, you smelt it. And what is a bad batch of tequila? First of all, we talking about alcohol. Now, it cannot be as good or potent as other bottles, but that's almost never the case either, right? When people make alcohol, you know, especially companies, they're pretty serious about what they're doing, and it's a whole barrel of it. It's not just bottle per bottle. That's separate batches. They're a bad batch. How? What was in it? A worm? Oh, that's common. Used to be. I mean, what made it bad? It was spoiled. That not right. What was bad about it? Somebody slipped something in it, maybe, because they knew only she was drinking it because she loved tequila. Now that sounds like something that would make sense, right? Because why y'all gonna say she had a bad batch of tequila? That's gonna explain why she was so intoxicated, allegedly. Because where's the toxicology? Okay. All right. So
Nobody else there wanted any. According to Jean and other witnesses, no one else touched it. They didn't like it, which surprised Tamala. So rather than let it go to waste, she began drinking it. And Tamala drank it alone, though weirdly nobody remembered her acting particularly drunk, even though police found the bottle nearly empty the next day.
Do you realize you've been throwing away free money every time you throw away a receipt? This little piece of paper.
I don't believe she drank all that much tequila.
The next day.
That'd be you trying to do away with yourself.
Around 11:30 p.m., the party was then starting to wind down. Some people headed home and others to bed. There were no arguments. Nothing bad had happened. By 1 a.m., Jean was telling the last few guests that she needed a crash because she had an early morning. Not long after that, there was just two remaining partygoers, Tamala and Bridget Fuller, who was waiting for her husband to come pick her up. And they chatted while Tamala ate some gumbo. When Bridget's husband arrived, Tamala walked her to the door, kissed Bridget's cheek, and said, "You're a really good person." And Bridget answered, and I quote, "Okay, well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Now take your ass in the house and finish eating your gumbo."
That's true.
That was at 1:47 a.m., according to the security system at the house that marks down when doors are locked and unlocked, opened or closed. And nobody ever reported seeing Tamala alive after that moment.
You see this balcony.
The following morning, Jean's Aunt Madeline, who was living there at the time, was the first to get up, and so she went downstairs to make some coffee. That's when out in the yard, she spots Tamala's body lying motionless, face down. He rushes into Jean's room, where she and her boyfriend, Jose Barrera, are sleeping, and tells them what she's seen. And Jean calls 911 at 8:59 a.m.
What's that, 911?
Hi, yes, I need an ambulance. I'm afraid. Can I go?
What's the address?
4450 Woodlake Court.
4450 Woodlake?
Yes.
Okay, what's going on?
We had people over last night and we were drinking. Most of the time, too bad. One of them stayed on the balcony. She was drinking, and we just went outside, and she's laying face down in the backyard. It looks like I'm guessing.
Y'all hear that? Plug this up. One of them stayed on the balcony. We can't tell a whole bunch of different stories. We just can't. How did she stay on the balcony if she was the one? Because that's what they report. They report that Tamala was the one who saw off Bridget. Bridget, who I can't stand none of them really, but Bridget. Tamala saw Bridget out the door. Everybody else was being out of it and kind of was going off to go to bed. So if she's so drunk, how was she able to see this woman out the door? And then on top of that, you eating, so you put something on your stomach. So she probably was drinking water too or something like that. Okay, but she says in this call she stayed out on the balcony.
She fell off the balcony, but she's stiff.
She fell off.
And tells the dispatcher her friend is face down and not breathing before handing the phone.
If you just found her outside, I could see guessing. Maybe she fell off the balcony. I don't know that would be my first guess, though. This is a whole grown woman. Since when do we just fall off balconies? What was you doing on the balcony? Did the tequila make you hallucinate like PCP or something? You thought you could fly? Because,
Over to Jose. And the way he talks in the 911 call, it appears like he had been out there checking on Tamala while Gene made the call. Once he assessed and had more information, he grabs the line to help relay the details of the situation.
Hey, this is Jose Guerrero.
Hey, have y'all checked to see if she's breathing?
She's not moving one bit. She's not breathing. I just tried to assess her, touch her completely face down in the yard. She is stiff.
Okay, so did you see any blood or anything to where, from where she fell?
I don't know if I should move her over. I mean, she's completely face down.
You can hear a woman in the background speculating that Tamala might have been pushed, referring to off the balcony, which was directly above her body. And cops then arrive at 9:07. What happens next is exactly what not to do when handling a potential crime scene. No yellow tape goes up, nobody properly documents or collects evidence, and no one even tries CPR or any life-saving measures.
Even let them go home.
The responding officers actually call off the ambulance altogether. The only person who touched Tamala's body before police arrived was Jose. The reports conflict on whether
Let's not forget the 911 operator. Because y'all know, what would a 911 operator do in that situation? They would tell you to roll that person over, and they would likely tell you to start CPR, but they would ask you to see if you see their chests moving, see if you could feel a pulse or something. They didn't tell her to tell him to go and really check her. Now, he says she's stiff. And when he was saying that, when she asked, did you check her? He was vague. But he said,